The historic heat wave plaguing the Pacific Northwest has led to extreme drought and a surge in wildfires. The region, which is known for its mild and temperate climate, has experienced record-breaking temperatures that are well above the normal highs even for the peak of summer. The heat wave, which started in mid-May and lasted for several days, was caused by a dome of high pressure that trapped hot and dry air over the area. The heat wave also affected parts of western Canada, where dozens of fires have been raging and forcing evacuations. The scorching temperatures have increased the risk of heat-related illnesses, especially for those who are dehydrated or do not have access to effective cooling. Many people in the Pacific Northwest do not have air conditioning, and with warm overnight lows, the body is not able to recover from the daytime heat. The National Weather Service issued heat advisories for more than 10 million people across the region and urged them to stay hydrated, avoid strenuous activities and seek shade or cooling centers. The heat wave has also worsened the drought conditions that have been affecting the region for months. According to the U. Drought Monitor, more than 90% of Oregon and Washington are in some level of drought, with more than half of both states in extreme or exceptional drought, the highest categories. The lack of precipitation and snowpack has reduced the water levels in rivers, reservoirs and wells, threatening agriculture, wildlife and drinking water supplies. The drought has also created tinder-dry conditions that have fueled the wildfires burning across the region. According to the National Interagency Fire Center, there are currently 18 large fires burning in Oregon and Washington, consuming more than 200,000 acres of land. The fires have produced thick smoke that has degraded the air quality and visibility in some areas. The fires have also posed challenges for firefighters, who have to cope with high temperatures, low humidity, and gusty winds. The heat wave, drought, and wildfires are all linked to climate change, which has altered the weather patterns and increased the frequency and intensity of extreme events. Scientists warn that these conditions could become more common and severe in the future, unless greenhouse gas emissions are reduced and adaptation measures are taken. The Pacific Northwest is facing a new reality of hotter, drier and more fire-prone summers that will require more resilience and preparedness from its residents and officials. The hot, dry weather is fueling dozens of wildfires across western Canada, where thousands have been evacuated and more than 1 million acres have already burned. Western Canada is facing a punishing heat wave that has pushed temperatures well above the normal levels for this time of the year. The extreme heat has created tinderbox conditions for wildfires, which have erupted in several provinces, especially Alberta and British Columbia. In Alberta, more than 30,000 people have been forced to leave their homes as more than 100 wildfires burn across the province. Some of the fires are out of control and threatening communities and infrastructure. The province has declared a state of emergency and requested federal assistance to fight the flames. In British Columbia, 2 large fires are also raging out of control in the northeastern part of the province, near the border with Alberta. The fires have prompted evacuation orders for some residents and warnings for others to be ready to leave at any moment. The fires are expected to grow bigger in the next few days due to high winds and low humidity. The smoke from the wildfires has reached into the upper troposphere, creating a thick haze that reduces visibility and air quality. The smoke can also affect the climate by reflecting sunlight and cooling the surface, while trapping heat and warming the atmosphere. The wildfires are a result of a combination of factors, including climate change, human activity, and natural variability. Climate change has increased the frequency and intensity of heat waves and droughts, making the vegetation more prone to ignition. Human activity, such as logging, mining, and development, has altered the landscape and increased the risk of fire ignition and spread. Natural variability, such as El Niño and La Niña cycles, can also influence the weather patterns and fire activity. The situation in Western Canada is expected to remain critical for the next few days, as the weather forecast shows no sign of significant rain or cooling. The firefighters are working tirelessly to contain the blazes and protect lives and property. The residents are urged to follow the evacuation orders and stay safe. The Pacific Northwest is no stranger to heat waves, but the one that hit the region in 2021 was unlike anything ever seen before. It was caused by a rare weather phenomenon known as a heat dome, which trapped hot air under a high-pressure system and prevented it from escaping. The result was record-breaking temperatures that soared well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit in many places, some of which had never experienced such heat before. The heat dome had devastating consequences for the people and the environment of the Pacific Northwest. Hundreds of people died from heat-related illnesses, especially those who were elderly, homeless, or lacked access to air conditioning. Hospitals were overwhelmed with emergency visits, and some infrastructure systems failed under the stress. Roads buckled, power lines melted, and water supplies dwindled. The heat dome also took a toll on agriculture and wildlife. Many crops and fruits were damaged or destroyed by the scorching sun, causing huge losses for farmers and consumers. Animals suffered from dehydration, heat stress, and reduced food sources. Some species, such as mussels and clams, cooked alive in their shells on the shorelines. The heat dome was not only extreme, but also unprecedented. It shattered previous temperature records by several degrees, and occurred much earlier than usual in the summer season. Scientists attributed the severity and frequency of such events to climate change, which has increased the average global temperature and made heat waves more likely and intense. Residents and officials in the Pacific Northwest have been trying to adjust to the likely reality of longer, hotter heat waves following the deadly heat dome of 2021. They have been implementing measures to improve preparedness, resilience, and adaptation to the changing climate. Some of these measures include expanding access to cooling centers, shelters, and water stations for vulnerable populations, investing in renewable energy sources and energy efficiency programs to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and lower electricity demand, enhancing emergency response plans and communication systems to alert and assist people during heat emergencies, promoting water conservation and irrigation practices to cope with drought conditions, supporting research and innovation to develop heat-resistant crops and livestock breeds, restoring and protecting natural habitats and ecosystems that provide shade, cooling, and biodiversity benefits. The Pacific Northwest is facing a new challenge as it confronts the impacts of the heat dome and prepares for more extreme heat events in the future. The region will need to balance its economic development, social equity, and environmental sustainability goals as it adapts to a warmer world.